Hey, my YouTube subscribers, welcome to this last week in the month of January 2021. I hope you're all keeping well, staying safe with everything that is going on around us. This is such an unprecedented time, and again, we just need to still stay safe, enjoy every moment of life, love yourself, love your friends, love your family, reach out to everyone at this point in time. These are tough times, really, really tough times. But again, each day we wake up, it's a day to be thankful. It's a day to be grateful for everything that is going on in our lives at this moment in time. That said, I'm going to be sharing with you my book for this week, which is no other book written by W.Thomas Boyce, MD. A very good friend of a professor, friend of mine. Professor Michael Kobo and Yanina Korn. They told me about this book and I said, hey, I must go get it. And, I don't regret buying this book, reading this book, and also sharing this book with numerous friends of mine. I can't count the number of my friends whom I've shared this book with, and some have gone further to buy their own copies. I mean, Dr. Boyce didn't tell me to advertise this book, but hey, reading it as a mother, as an educator, this book actually throws more light on why is it that so many kids growing up in the same household, why is there, we all have our different personalities, but growing in the same environment, growing in the same family, why is it that along the line they differ, things happen, and so the title of the book is called The Orchid and the Dandelion, why some children struggle and how all can thrive, by W.Thomas Boyce, MD. The Orchid and the Dandelion. So if we really know, I love this book. I love the title. That's what attracted me. I was like, what kind of kids will it be referring to as the orchid and the dandelion? The orchid is a plant, a flower, and same as the dandelion. And if you really know about these two plants, I was so fortunate that the same time I got this book, a friend of mine bought me an orchid plant. And I was like, wow, okay, fine. And it's so funny that just by the side of the plant, there was like a very short note, and saying, hey, you've gotten a plant, but this is how you need to take care of this plant. Certain time of the day, when to water it, the amount of sunlight the plant needs, the amount of how often you should put extra manure or nutrient to the soil, the right amount of water. And I was like, wow. So it's that precise. Yeah, my orchid stayed for a while until I had to travel. And again, I'm sure nobody in my house was like, oh, will they give those precise time and everything care for the orchid? Although when I got back from my trip, my orchid was still alive. But then after a while, sometimes because of how the events of the day rolls by, I tend to forget to either water it or add nutrients to the soil. And then my orchid passed on. But right in front of my house, I have this small front yard. I have so many dandelions growing. Boom, and they just grow wild through season, through times, and then I do a comparison, the dandelion, it's there out there through rain, through sunshine. There's no added manure, there's no added soil, there's no extra nutrient to the soil, and it's still surviving. So why the difference? Why the disparity between both? And that's when Dr. Thomas Boyce, places kids, as we have some kids who are the orchid kids and some who are the dandelion. And then this is something he said. He said, in the orchid and the dandelion, Dr. Thomas Boyce writes of the dandelion child. Who does he refer to as the dandelion child? Hardy, resilient, and healthy, able to survive and flourish under any circumstances, just like the real dandelion plant. Is able to survive, is able to thrive, is able to, live through any weather. It's going to weather the weather. If I have to use that phrase, through sunshine, through rain, through thunderstorms, through any storm, it will strive. It's resilient. Even if there's a hard push in life, it will survive. But then let's look at the orchid. I've shared with you my own personal orchid I had here in my living room for a while. And it says, and the orchid child, sensitive, susceptible, and fragile, who given the right support can thrive as much as, if not more than, other children. But then the but is, when that child is not given the care, the support. I mean, we all give all our kids enough care, enough support, so much love. But when there's that push, when there's that challenge, when there's that storm, what happens to the child? This is something, and again, Thomas Boyce brings us, this is a medical book, but at the same time, he shares his narrative about him and a sibling. He comes from a home where there are 3 kids, him being the 4th child, and then his sister, and then his younger brother. But then how come that he says, both of us, we all grew in the same house, we all had the same opportunity, but he refers himself as the Dandelion child. But then his sister, along the line, she did so well, went to one of the top class universities in the world, was known to be one of the most brilliant people. But when there was minimal support sometime in the child's life, what happened? I'm going to read an excerpt from this story, which really touched me. It's a very short one. It says, Mary, that's the sister's name, and I were decidedly not genetically or psychologically identical. One sibling was a boy, who is Thomas, and the other a girl. Both were temperamentally introverted, but one was substantially more shy than ever a bashful brother. Both were blessed with an inherent ability to do well in the enterprise of learning, but Mary's was greater than mine. On the other hand, we were also remarkably similar in age, temperament, behavior, and physical phenotype. Both of us were redheads who were genetically better suited to the islands of Scotland than to the beaches of Southern California. As kids, we were freckled and sunburned from June through September and poked at midlife with the barnacled remains of skin first damaged decades earlier on the sunny easternmost edge of the Pacific Rim. Both of us were bookish and nerdy, both strong-willed but playful. Each one the other's closest, go-to playmate in those salad years of our youth. We could amuse each other for hours with a few inverted chairs covered with blankets that could become a tunnel, a train, or some secret hideout in which to read an afternoon away. But there was a fragile and shadowed innocence in our play that foretold a complicated and sorrowful future. When we emerged from the childhood's hideout as adults, we were 2 different people. Mary's orchid nature had taken by midlife a treacherous and destructive turn toward mental illness and disarray, dependency, and self-defeat. She found it impossible to apply for, let alone ably do a paying job. She was perennially haunted by fears for the future, convinced of her family's malevolence, at war with emerging conspiracies of hostile neighbors and betraying friends. By now, the harrowing, hallucinatory voices that had undone her promising young adulthood had become permanent residents within a broken, disordered mind. How, as I have asked in these pages, and so many of us ask in our lives, can the path The developmental trajectories of two such close and congenial siblings have moved so asunder. How can a person who was so nearly me, or at least a rich part of me, have parted so tragically and irreparably from the wide open and most joyful road on which we both walked as children? Sometimes we always ask ourselves those questions. Hey, I thought these two people are from the same home. Or I thought these two kids are from the same family. What happened? Why has this one gone differently? Why has that one gone different ways? Why have they gone different pathways? What must have transpired? Again, as I say, two personalities, though we sometimes say the environment, which is nurture, has a way. When we talk about nature versus nurture from the environment, but nature has its own place to play. But how is it that we still have some kids who are the orchid and some are the dandelion? Some kids will definitely struggle, but how all can thrive? This is something Thomas Boyce actually, where he goes into epigenetics. I mean, this is not my time to talk about epigenetics, but I love after reading this, I took time to delve into epigenetics with some other friends of mine who are psychiatric doctors and other psychiatrists, and even also another prof of mine who looks at mental health issues, and it's like it's ongoing. And even with Dr. Michael Cobo, who is Professor Michael Cobo, who looks at the research around this, and the conversation keeps going on and it's ongoing. So I will encourage you, be you a mother, be you an educator, or wanting to know more about this research or this conversation or this narratives that Dr. Boyce has started, I recommend you to pick up this book. You can get it from so many bookstores or online and read it. And so next time I log on, my video may not be next week, because this is really, really a busy school time for me. I'm going to be looking at this book. This is also a non-fiction, Saving Charlotte by Pierre de Jong. Lovely, lovely book. Lovely book. When I read this book, I was so much in tears. So don't forget to subscribe so you can get a notification when I upload this book, and do enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.